Yes, and like definitely not a frame person that is sitting on this behavior that basically like only 5 minutes left after like to do the channel. It's about the power like all the theoretical members as well as like the various movies. Like I'm just like definitely I'm just like the scenario to be like right now with like Natsu trying to stop that by fighting Totamaru. Definitely I'm the like Natsu won't be I'm just definitely right now for like Natsu most likely not being able to like neither stop Totamaru or like defeat Totamaru or like I'm difference. And Natsu is definitely not going to like be able to like stop like the Jupiter cannon, like the second shot of like the Jupiter cannon, like set up scenario that I'm looking at. So like but still, my very impression definitely for like the scenario to be like when there would be only 1 minute left for eventually once there would be only 1 minute left for like the Jupiter game like to like fire into like at that very last minute like I'm also thinking like most likely Loki like probably like using some sort of just like magic or like magical item and sneaking up behind like Lucy singing sneaking up behind Mara singing Mara like Lucy and I'm also bring like while Mara would be in her transformation magic making her look like Lucy. So like I'm also bring like Loki still be showing up behind Mara and basically using his like magic or like magical item like him putting Mara into a sleep like state so like at that point, I was remembering like the entire like the first element of person there, like totally at that point, shockingly seeing like Loki betraying all of them and taking like Mara, seeing Mara, like Lucy and like the remaining turtles still member person there as well might have actually not at all seen like Mara stealthily like telling readers to like get Lucy away from there. So like I'm looking like the entire like the first member person there as well, probably saying that there's a leak. Loki has this saying that like Loki has betrayed them and that like that protect person that Loki is like taking at that point will be taking towards like the whole huge cases of like the kind of players would be precisely the actual Lucy would be what like the fair skill member present there as well as Loki would be thinking at that point like the scenario that I'm looking for. So like Mara being in like a sleep like state and Loki bringing Mara to like the castle at that very last minute or like when there was only few seconds left. Most likely during like the very last minute, it's like the scenario that I'm open. So like uh, at that point, like Jose seeing that and like Jose like totally excitedly like basically opening like the door to like Castle and precisely as like Loki along with like the asleep Mara will be like entering into that castle. Like at that point, self found was different like uh, Loki, like, at that point, itself, I'm also putting like Joseph shutting the door and like Joseph straight away giving the command to like basically still fire like the Jupiter can. It's like the scenario that I'm looking for. And at that point, I'm also putting definitely for at that point, Loki totally being shocked. Like, like Loki would be totally not at all expecting that. Like, Loki would be still totally expecting that basically, Joseph might actually, Joseph might definitely not fire like the Jupiter can if like he had once he bring like Lucy to like Joseph would be along the lines like Joseph might have already kind of more confidently felt it's definitely also for him. So uh so like at that point like Loki being shocked and like Lucy can being fired and basically at that point like basically all the characters members like present there in front of like the president is like totally feeling as such like this is it and that they are all going to die by the Jupiter again. But like at that very last second would be when is the super thing. And I was remembering the second shot of like the current second shot of like Jupiter again positioning would be that a whole lot stronger than the first shot of like the Jupiter again towards like the fair place to members, especially when the frame rate. So the that's like the scenario that I'm looking for. Like the second shot of the Jupiter can be even more extremely intense and powerful and about doing like obviously that canon being would be about the magical canon being would be about to strike like the parallel still from the that very last second would be and potentially I'm super like an actor. I'm super like it would be like I'm being more sure the possibility of that it being like rather than just Lactus alone showing up and stopping that just canon being or like itself like it would be like not just Lactus but like Lactus might have like after like Mara had forced help for like example like Lactus acting in an insensitive manner might have been totally a fake act put up by Lactus just like Lactus might have because like Lactus might be insecure about like showing his true self in front of in front of like the other fairy tale guild members who are like not senior, second year or whatever. So and I was wondering, so that point, like might have told me straight away when Mara has sought help and after like Daxus has told Mara that like he wants precisely after that itself, like after hanging up the phone, like Sir like Daxus might have straight away called Miss Pigeon as well as like the other two underveiled senior heritage guild members. So like I was thinking like them for most likely showing up at that very last second and stopping collectively, that most likely stopping the Jupiter cannon, intense Jupiter cannon thing, and basically saving entirety of like the fairy tale shield members from there as well as the fairy tale shield base. It's like the scenario that I'm talking so like the fairy tale shield members and four of them being like only and absolutely shocked at like because like it will be totally extremely unexpected for them at that point for like the senior members of like the fairy tale shield, especially like to like show up and save them. It's like the scenario that I'm also different. But like even after like blocking like the Jupiter cannon, it would be like I'm also like they won't be like struggling to like block like the Jupiter cannon. Like the thinner members of like the Persian film would be like way stronger than the thinner element core of like Phantom Kill, especially when it's and at that point, like after saving like the characters film members and the characters still like after point Laxus most likely once again being insecure. So like after point Laxus at that point hiding his insecurity by saying something along the lines of like he only stopped like the being not for like the characters film members but like solely due to like just solely because he doesn't want his like characters skill base to like get destroyed along the lines like making an excuse at that point of like the scenario that I was bring and then I was bring like straight away Lactus and like the remaining three like Lactus Mystical and like the revealed to characters will members like storming into like the castle. And I was bring like the whole fight to like happen there. It's like the scenario that I was bring and through that fight like I was like they would be like the element for who would be like I was like all of the elements of most likely the within like the castle. It's like somewhere within like the like the scenario that I'm so, like all of them being defeated unbelievable to happen at that point. It's like the scenario that I'm going and while that whole fight would be happening and while by the time like this and I was like they will be totally defeated but still I'm willing them to like only still manage to like escape out of like the out of like the Phantom Guild castle. It's like the scenario that I'm looking at. So like I'm looking like as a revenge like Lactus and Theme, like the senior territorial guild members like them for like I'm looking like on top of like defeating like the element four of like Phantom Guild, like them deciding to like destroy like the castle of like the Phantom Guild at that point of like the second scenario that I'm looking at. So like right before destroying and I was thinking, while this fight would be taking place, I'm to bring like natural on the other hand would be like in that cannon area would be fighting against like Sotomayor and like I'm to bring like right now I'm to bring like maybe or like the wasn't safe like by the time like the Laxus and like the other three senior members of the team would be like defeating like the element for once like the senior element four will be defeated by like the senior members of the fairy tale still like at that point like the senior member of the fairy tale still like deciding to like blow up like the entire castle. So like right before blowing up like the entire castle I'm also like the Joffrey as well as like the element for like basically succeeding in escaping like the scenario that I'm looking at. So like by then like I'm looking like Nazi would have only or and defeated Sotomayor and like Totoma would be like lying on the floor, totally being unable to move, and like while like Natsu at that point would be when like Natsu would be totally noticing. One like I'm also going happy basically at that point like would be finding out about like the senior members of like the current skill like basically about to blow up like together. So like I'm just maybe it being like happy that would be like telling Natsu that like the castle's about to blow up like so like basically at that point like I'm also maybe like happy quickly like carrying Nestle and basically flying away from like the castle kind of the castle like the scenario that I'm looking. So still regardless I'm also referring definitely like even though the castle I'm definitely preparing to like blow up at that point from like the ultimate power of like after still members like I'm also referring like still like the element for each of the members of like the element for as well as Jose would be definitely succeeding in like escaping from like the castle of like the Phantom Guild like before it was like the scenario that I'm going to bring in. not only them, but like I'm considering by then like Loki along with like by then like I'm considering that Loki like Mira would be waking up and I'm considering like Loki like shockingly finding out at that point like I'm just going to be particularly when Mira would be waking up that like Mira would be like uh, realizing like everything that's going on and at that point like Mira also realizing that basically Loki had betrayed like the fairy tale members like even though Mira might have had her own strategy to like totally trick Jose into like basically thinking that basically she's Lucy and basically that way to like stop like the Joker can even though that might have been like Mara's plan and but like even Mara's plan like totally backfiring would be like what possibly would be happening is another possibility that I'm considering is like Loki stealthily like using like magic powers to like put Mara into sleep thinking Mara is like Lucy's like the scenario that I'm like one possibility that I'm considering so like that way like once like eventually and Mara would be waking up in like the uh, Phantom's castle. Like at that point would be when like Mara would be only realizing that like Loki has betrayed like Mara thinking Loki had betrayed like the third Christian thinking like Mara was lazy. And like at that point like Mara transforming back to her true self when Mara wakes up and like Loki is talking fighting this out. And I'm looking like Mara and Loki quickly before like the castle will be blowing up like I'm looking like them totally getting away and escaping and return back to like the fairy tale guild members. So like at that point I was looking like the remaining fairy tale guild members seeing like Mara like them totally all of them asking Mara as to like where Lucy is like so like at that point Mara telling like the fairy tales all the fairy tales team members that you put in there that basically it was like our strategy like but something at that point for Mara to totally like just to like and that he wanted to like hand over Lucy to like to Joffrey. Like basically that truth like I was referring like at that point like Mara totally hiding that from like the remaining characters in members by lying and saying that it was like a combined strategy of like Loki and Mara that like they did like along with the such lines I was referring like Mara lying and covering for like Loki like the scenario that ended. So then I was referring like Mara totally like telling Loki, calling Loki and telling Loki that she has to say something. And that way, like Ambassador like Mara and Loki having that private conversation where like Ambassador like Loki totally like would be at that point feeling that absolute guilt because like Mara at that point would be like totally straight away calling out like and asking Loki as like why if he betrayed like the entire with the fairy tale gift and why he want us to like give up Lucy. So like at that point, I'm also bring like Loki confessing the truth that I'm also bring like still remember so that like Loki is in like as for like Loki being kind of disturbed by celestial wizards or like not disliking celestial wizards. Like the reason would be exactly because of like I'm also like Loki back to during like Loki's childhood, like Loki's parents might have totally died by the hands of a celestial wizard, especially my so like since then like Loki might have had that experience of like or like a disturbance uh, towards like the disasters and in the preliminary friends. So like Loki basically this is my program, but like Loki confessing to Mara and then was like at that point Mara telling talking back to like Loki and basically making Loki understand that basically not all selfish wizards are the same and basically that way like through that interaction like Loki totally feeling bad and guilty yet like I'm preferring Mara totally comforting Loki and from that point on I'm preferring like Loki and it was only from that point on that like I'm preferring like Loki's like for disturbance or like dislike towards like Lucy would be over and I'm preferring like from it would be only from that it being only from that point on that like Loki would be totally see starting to see Lucy as like a member of like the fairy tales guild as family. It's like the Princess scenario that I'm preferring I'm not in also like correction in my prediction because like my personal impression is that like the physicians like NATO has like just now like recently got changed like iron Gazil and my personal impression is definitely that like iron Gazil won't be even an element for member of like the fantasy field especially when information like and Gazil would be like the strongest among like would only be like the strongest among like the known element for members of like the fantasy field especially when remember so like especially right now with like NATO fighting up against like Totamaru, and since like Totamaru is in fact like an element war member, I'm also preferring I want my birthday impression right now, I'm also totally preferring like definitely Natsu totally not at all being able to like create Otomaru's like the scenario that ends up and the super definitely the thought about having like power to like manipulate fire like and the different like definitely not so not being able to like find out a solution or anything to like or like a strategy to like overcome like the to basically defeat like Totamaru other than switching off his like flame powers is like the scenario that I'm going and that's where like Natsu trying to like without using like any of his like magical powers like Natsu like trying to like uh, actually like fight it and basically or without using any magic and like at that point I'm also trying like Natsu possibly like specifically when I mentioned that like at that point maybe when like Amazon Naso realizing the importance of like the of like basically doing physical training and getting stronger physically and Naso realizing that this entire time that Naso had only focused on his like matching powers on long like Naso had trained in his like physical powers he's like sharpening his like physical strength Natsu realizing that like this is like one of like the villains that or like villain henchmen that Natsu had fought off against in the past had told Natsu about this that basically Natsu haven't trained his like or like sharpened his physical strength and that is like a disadvantage for Natsu and so something like that dialogue of that villain henchman in like the past to have a relevance right now in like Natsu's current fight against Sotamaru in which like I was about like Natsu not being able to like defeat Sotamaru specifically because of like Natsu not having trained as like or like sharpened as like physical strength and fight physical fighting skills is definitely my personal reaction. So that's like the scenarios that I'm leaning more towards, and basically Totamaru actually defeating Natsu is like the scenario that I was thinking. Yet, like I was thinking, by the time like the senior fairy tale will members would be like destroying like the castle of fantasy. At that point, I was thinking like so like my representations are like at that point like I was thinking like solely due to like the this castle like about to be blown up. Like I'm also like solely due to that reason alone, like I'm also like Totamaru, like have no other choice but to like escape and leave and like leave along with like the other senior characters, senior fantasy guild, element four members of like the fantasy guild along with like those who will be like retreating at that point and escaping out and leaving like the castle behind. At that point, like solely due to like situation being such a situation, I'm also showing like Naruto not dying by the hands of Orochimaru. And basically, at that point, like as like the castle would be about to get blown up by like the senior fairy shield members. At that point, like at that very last second, I was dedicated Naruto most likely being so badly defeated that like he would be struggling to even move. So like I was feeling solely due to like happy, like I'm feeling like Naruto surviving and like happy precisely like picking Nasu up and like getting Nasu out of like the castle of like the fantasy before it will be like blown up by like the scene of fairy tales number which like seven six fourteen scenario that I'm able to bring and bring. Okay, so like the name is injury I'm facing right now with like even while like right now there's only like one or two minutes alone like for like the just for cannon to fire and they, even right now in such a situation like with like Nasu right now in an extremely silly manner, like freaking and triggering Tokamaru, like like it would be precisely part of like Natsu's cunning strategy. Definitely, I was able to stop like the Jupiter fleet. To like prevent like Jupiter cannon from firing and destroy like the Lacrima. It's definitely my personal emergency. So like I'm like definitely right now Natsu would be like well and fully aware that basically any trying to like basically shoot out this like fiery magical powers straight towards like the Lacrima and to destroy like the Lacrima. That definitely won't be possible. Precisely because of Sotamaru being able to like manipulate and stop and move the direction of fire. That way like a direct fiery attack after that like the Lacrima by to destroy like the Lacrima by Natsu won't be working out would be one thing that Nancy would be like well and fully aware of by now. It's definitely my favorite. Like Nancy's plan would be to like right now through Nancy's silly tricking of like silly ways of like tricking like uh, tricking like Totamaru and triggering Totamaru like it would be perfectly consciously with the conscious intent for like Nancy to like trigger Totamaru to the extreme so that like Totamaru would be totally losing his like focus and concentration so that like for Natsu to like that way trigger Totamaru to like eventually making Totamaru like launch all the lose focus and launch all sorts of like fiery attacks towards like Napu so that like eventually Dantu's plan would be to like eventually like eventually like as like Totamaru would be attacking Natsu like for Natsu to like eventually move around until like Natsu would be like eventually consciously would be planning on standing right in front of like the latter mark. So that like since at that point like without the focus and concentration and with like Totamaru at that point would be like since like Totamaru at that point that way. And so with only focusing like at that point simply like Totamaru would be trying to like get Totamaru so screen the trigger that at that point Totamaru carelessly like basically shooting out like another set of like theory magic towards like Natsu so that like at that very last second like Natsu could like dodge that attack so that like that theory attack of like so that way make like Totamaru like you accidentally like land with like theory of theory magic at like the his own theory magic accidentally at like the latter match and that way for to make Totamaru himself like get tricked again into like eventually destroying like the latter match himself using his own theory magic would be like the plan and strategy of Nasus right now as there's only 1 or 2 minutes left for like the Jutsu can to fire especially by the and right now was bring like even though like I'm also thinking about the evolution that like tomorrow would be like definitely stronger than food. And I'm also like maybe putting just be like the fire manipulation powers below. And also like maybe tomorrow would be having like other magical powers as well. Yet like I'm also like Nasu would be like a lot more clever than Totamaru and that would be the reason for like Nasu usually being able to like trick Totamaru so much at the same time. It's definitely one of the things. So like I'm the person just to totally be like possibly be like Nasu strategy that Nasu would be trying to like attempt at right now. And I was bringing the strategy of like Nasu scenario to be like the strategy of Nasu to like probably work out and basically with like the scenario that I was bringing is like Totamaru actually using his like pop theory that can Totamaru himself like actually is thrown like the Laxama. And that way like the Jupiter cannon being stopped. While there will be only very few seconds like 10 or like even less than 10 seconds left for like the Jupiter cannon to like fire like at that very last second would be when like I'm considering like the scenario to be like Totamaru accidentally destroying like the Laxama. It's like the scenario that I'm considering right as of right now and not in the dream. Okay, so like let me know the very impression right now with like the Jupiter cannon destroyed and right now like Jose telling like start of like the giant like I'm thinking like what Jose would be right now the strategy that Jose would be right now using right now my very impression would be like by starting up the giant and the giant would be perfectly the castle itself was definitely one of the reactions. So like I was but like it will be most likely due to all that funding that like Jose might not only receive from Lucy's father to like get Lucy back, like and over like he like put a whole lot of money and like moving with that money like all this like super can and everything would be bought. All these powerful magical items might have been bought by using all that money by Jose. Might have been what might have happened is definitely never friends and that would be the sole reason for like this time like the panel guild being like would be most likely a whole lot stronger than they were in like the past. It's definitely never friends. This would be like the sole reason like this is father's like funding would be like sole reason for that. It's definitely never but they might have bought up like whole lot of powerful magical items uh, and like they might have like items and basically even music for buying not only magical items like Jupiter, but like they will like even like Element 4 and all of them might have even Jose might have gotten like all sorts of like magical items like a magical ring or like such magical items as well. Like they would have equipped themselves with as well, and that way like the whole front perspective and skills might have like exponentially increased a lot of definitely and that would be like total for like right now like the fight being like the that would be like totally for like the parent having like struggles to like the current extent to burn down like the fans to like the name to them. So like I was even right now as for like the giant I was going like right now that with all that money like the castle of like the final skills might have been totally modified to the point that like it wouldn't be just like the Jupiter cannon, but like right now we're doing like a transforming like a transformation to like right now happen to like the fan castle, where like the castle would be like transforming into like a giant humanoid or like a giant robot like form, and then we're doing like that as well to be like totally fully controlled by magic. Like it's, there will be some sort of like a magical item most likely maybe installed within like the Phantom Guild castle, which would be like powering like and enabling the like for giant like humanoid or like a robotic transformation, which is what I'm personally preferring for like right now. The giant strategy for right now for like what like giant strategy of like Jose would be definitely never very interested. So definitely never very interested right now as for like Jose being so extremely relaxed that right now he says like after like the giant like even after like the Jupiter cannon has been destroyed and even after like Jose has still haven't like been able to like get back like capture back Lucy like even after all this situation like I'm looking like right now since like Jose is so extremely relaxed and looking like it will totally have to do with like they're existing like all sorts of like extremely powerful magical items like installed into like the castle into like the family castle. Then Jupiter would be like the smallest and like the weakest among like the powerful magical items that might have installed the member pyramid. So like I was thinking like even like the current giant strategy like I'm just putting like the reminds of the membership would be like the castle like turning into like a giant, but still I'm also like maybe like the I'm referring to opposite like maybe like the heritage just once again with their collective struggling of like an effort like destroying maybe like even somehow managing to like destroy even like the giant is like only like the least likely person to that I'm referring. The more likely person to that I'm referring is that like the giant like the transformation which I'm going to be the transformation of like the planetary castle like that being too much for like the entire case like the remaining characters as well as like NASA to be able to like stop and bring down so that like I'm considering at that point like the giant I'm considering like the castle turning into like a giant and it's being totally being unable to be stopped by all the characters still members and like the giant would be like amazing like the giant castle like about to like storm all the characters still members and see like it will be like the giant transformation number going to be extremely huge like even like the characters still members not being able to like get away like the giant would be able to storm them, either them or like the fairy still basis like the scenario that I'm doing. Either the giant like walking and basically the castle actually walking as like a giant and basically like the phantom guild castle like basically as like a giant like about to either storm like the fairy tale members or like the fairy tale guild base. So like at that point, like the first none of like the fairy tale guild members being able to actually anything about it. So like the scenario that I'm looking and maybe at that point, maybe when other people like Lactus Vision and like sort of the team, like the 200 will senior characters will never be showing up and destroying like the end at that point. It's also like possibly scenarios that I'm looking as for right now in my impression. But by the impressions that as for like the more likely possibilities for like the giant to like most likely like the castle turning into like a giant and the giant like about to storm like the fairy storm and destroy like the fairy tale still there. But like at that very last second I was wondering most likely Mara playing out her strategy, the her transformation magic and transform and with her transformed as Lucy like Mara like totally fake acting as Lucy and basically her like shouting out to like the phantom giant castles to like Jose that basically like stop and basically at that point like Jose noticing and noticing like and basically Jose totally getting tricked and thinking that it's Lucy and like the remaining characters will members as well getting tricked and thinking that it's Lucy and basically that way like the giant like quickly picking up like Mara would be like in Lucy's form. That was scenario that I'm going. So like I was thinking like even after like taking Mara like and capturing Mara like thinking that it's Lucy like even after that like straight away like Jose given the orders to like storm and destroy like the characters will be so like at that point at that very last second would be like when the giant would be able to destroy like the characters will be possibly being like the point where like the lack of precision and like the remaining rebel two fairy tale senior guild members like showing up. Also, the feeling of the Miriam picture right now with like what seems like not already having like or for like Totamaru. So like my impression is that like it's not to actually defeats like fully defeats and thoroughly defeats like Totamaru right now. Then I'm also bringing executions like Totamaru is like an element force member like I'm also bringing like if like I am Geji is not an element member like it's like the actuality of like the situation. Then I'm also bringing like Iron Gate might not be like an element for member that maybe on his own accord, like maybe it might be like Iron Gate like a rebellious nature that might have maybe wanted him that might be the reason for like maybe like him possibly not wanting like the element for title and like maybe like I am the Jill ambassador and maybe being even stronger than a whole lot stronger than Tottenham. There's also like a possibility that ambassador for again as the revolution right. So the film is very impressive right now with like the remaining characters still members totally placing their hope on like Natsu being able to like destroy like the castle giant, like the Thanos castle giant, like I'm just talking like maybe I'm just talking now also like the possibility of like Natsu himself like taking down the giant as well. It's like also like a serious possibility that was solely due to like Natsu's strong point being like destruction, like basically destruction. Whether like buildings or like everything, like basically destroying stuff. Being since like destroying stuff is in fact like Natsu's like strong point. Possible maybe like it's not being that extremely hard for Natsu to like basically destroy like and bring down like the entirety of like the Phantom's Guild Castle Giant is like also like a possible scenario that I'm considering because like all not only having to do only just to like destroy the entire thing and I'm considering maybe that to like a Nato keep but like I'm considering like it to not still not be easy for Nato like I'm considering like a Nato where especially with like Nato motion sickness like that I'm considering like an extremely like huge obstacle for Nato to be able to like let out his like um power and basically theory power and basically put that as the focus and concentration to be able to like let out his power and destroy like the giant. But like Ambassador and like maybe still Ambassador and like Natsu somehow temporarily being for the time being able to like somehow pull himself together and being able to like destroy start destroying like the giant and Ambassador like still even then like Ambassador like the castle would be like by now would be like all the funding of like Lucy's father like even like the Spanish skill castle would be like so extremely tougher than it was before. So like Ambassador like even with like natural power like Ambassador like it's taking it's usually taking some time for like Naruto to be able to like fully be able to like destroy the castle. So like I'm like Naruto slowly building his way into like destroying that area where like Naruto right now is in front of Totoma. Like I'm like Serpent Fillet or like Naruto starting to like destroy part by part from that point of like the giant fantasy castle is like the scenario that I'm looking and I was looking like the castle walk slowly walking up towards like the remaining circle members as like they will be only focusing on like taking out the shade ghost. Like the scenario that I'm looking with, but like they would be like as they would be like fighting like the shade ghost and bringing down like the shade ghost like or find like eventually like like by the time they would be like almost possibly done defeating like the shade ghost like like by then like then shockingly realizing that basically the castle is like right before them like right in front of them so like castle giant is like right in front of them. So like the next step, like the castle giant ambassador is most likely about to storm either the fairy tale skill members or like the fairy tale skill based like the scenario that ambassador in. But like ambassador like as the feet of like the giant castle would be about to storm either the fairy tale skill members or like the fairy tale skill based like ambassador like Nasu like letting out that final punch of like a destructive attack which would be like destroying, like possibly destroying like the entirety of like the giant phantom shield castle at that very last second. It's like also like another possible scenario that I'm also putting about the screen, which is like the more likely possibility that I'm going to bring as of right now. So that's like the main of the story I'm pursuing right now with like the giant phantom shield castle bringing out like a whole lot of like magic circles like and like with Lucy revealing it like the software for like of its phrase like software and magic like I'm looking like it's for like Jose to like have a forbidden magic like I'm looking like uh so it's only due to like Jose precisely after like precisely giving the most likely the scenario what might have happened would be like precisely after like Lucy's father might have given all the money to like a whole lot of money to like Jose and he gave Jose assigned Jose with like mission to like destroy like to basically attack and destroy like attack like the fairy tale skill and or like maybe like attack like the fairy tale skill and basically bring back Lucy and I was like maybe like Lucy's father as well like might have not just wanted Lucy back but like he might have also been angry with like the fairy tale skill for like basically like that basically since like Lucy was a part of like the fairy tale skill, like I'm visiting it, and like this is father might be totally someone who will be like looking down on like the fairy tale skill. It's also definitely very much so like Lucy's father as well might have it is like the fairy tale skill so much and so those are like Lucy's father's order skill that which he might have given or like the job he might have given or assigned to like Jose might have not just been to like just get Lucy back but also to like attack and maybe destroy like the player's skills as well in like the process as well. It's also the new members of so like I was thinking like Jose already uh, definitely might have had that absolute desire to like destroy like the player's skills. So like I was thinking like Jose might have seen this as like golden opportunity. So like I'm thinking like to maximize his like chance of being able to like succeeding like destroying like player's skill base as well as the player's skill members like I'm also thinking like what Jose might have done Jose might have totally got help from like the dark things. Technically, was whatever. So like I was thinking like the parents film was like bringing down like the plan of like the dark kill like basically in like the whole lullaby demon like basically lullaby float scenario like that incident like basically that plans of like the SN world game being like destroyed by like the parent kill like I was thinking like that might have been all over like the news after that incident. So Luna was like and Jose might have seen this news definitely remember the famous. So like exactly because of this reason, like I'm just thinking Jose at that point might have felt that basically this would be like that him not paying all the funding from like his father to carry out this mission. I'm just wondering like Jose might have felt that like this might be like the best time to like basically even seek the help of like the dark guild as well. Jose might have only expected like the dark thing would be like only itching to like get revenge on like the parents skills for like the SN world skill mission like paid up by the parents because also the minimum framework. So like I'm going especially that coupled with like basically when Jose might have approached like the articles, like the articles might have been even more hard, like the extreme sense of the to like get revenge on like papers with and that might be because of like not just the assembled get failure, but like even in like the case of like macro and like Nasu and a bunch of players, still numbers like even destroying like the alive magic and basically like for that like for alive magic incident as well, like basically those star guilds as well might have straight away head back to like the main base of like their dark guild and might have like at that point as well like the dark guild other dark guild members might have only found out about this incident as well. So like I'm assuming them only right now would be having that actual sense of wanting to get revenge on like the terrorists. So like I'm assuming when Jose might have only approached like the dark of the dark guild, like at that point I'm also thinking that they might have only straight away agreed. So like I'm assuming it should be safely Zaraf, like emphasis like the dark kids would be totally tied, connected to Zaraf and would be like secretly communicating with like wherever Zaraf would be. Maybe like Zaraf would be even living in like a different, totally different dimension of the universe. Yet like Zaraf would be like often communicating. At times he'd be like communicating with like the dark kids because Lima would be and that might have been how like the dark kids might have been even like the sun world like a small girl like the sun world even getting access to like field and forbidden like lullaby food and all that like basically and the alignment and all that will be them being able to like the last kids being able to like access or getting access to all the things is only due to like the health especially when the brain is so like I'm assuming like even when Jose might not only of course like the dark skills uh for like help to like spoil the therapist like even at that point I'm assuming like Zarf uh might have like help like with like current hobbies for it magic like magic stuff like basically this forbidden magic as well like I'm wondering like Jose even and like the fans guild even getting access to that only due to like Zarf's help. It's definitely member to the temperature. So definitely even right now with like I'm wondering like with like there being like a bunch of bunch of people with like clothes and like this guy is like ambassador like those people are like then like the fans will catch like ambassador like those bunch of people who are like performing all the match like this week. Those people ambassador like even those in their cloth the symbol of like the band skills of the ambassador the possibility that like maybe them actually being like fan skill members themselves get like ambassador with them having um being given like the access to like perform like the arbitrary magic stuff and everything through like the Russell and like Jose might have went to like the dark field, to one of the dark field base and thought that like at that point like those are felt like uh these like people wearing like the sharp clothes like the symbol of like the symbol of like the family might actually their core identity might actually be that of like they might actually be members of like the family that's like only 1% of the time or like their clothes might have like a symbol the symbol of clothes are having like a symbol of like the family like in actuality then their true identity would be like they would be actually members of the dark like basically right now basically like it would be like right now them helping the dark will helping like Jose destroy like the heritage skills because of like the dark wanting to get revenge and destroy like the heritage skills them as themselves as well, certainly themselves as well can that the see like the results of them taking up with like Jose and helping Jose out and solely being like the reason for like right now Jose and his like and Castle being able to like perform like these break for the magic is definitely one possibility that I'm considering. And so like definitely my very impression is that basically especially since like right now it's the reveal that like how prepared like it was a wow you bring down like the fairy tale theater especially with like the castle having been like having like the Jupiter cannon equipped on top of like the Jupiter cannon like basically like the castle being able to like turn into like a giant the Pantheon castle being able to turn into a giant and basically right now with like the abyss break forbidden magic and everything like basically with how prepared Jose is like I'm delivering like definitely Jose might have like if even after like Jose earlier had captured Lucy, like even at that point, if like Natsu were able to like save Lucy, and like even if like Natsu at that point like brought back Lucy to like the parents' place, then like even then I'm considering like after like straight away after like handing over Lucy to like Lucy's father, like technically at that point, then like Jose might have straight away with his like got back to his like Phantom Skill Castle and with that Phantom Skill Castle he might have exactly like, right now he might have grown up with like the old days of can and it was like with precisely with the conscious intent to like definitely still destroy like the Fairy Guild base as well as like the entirety of like the Fairy Guild members. So definitely my and that would be like the sole reason for like him being like so extremely prepared like the Jupiter cannon with like the abyss magic like the castle has being able to like, turn into a giant as well as like the abyss magic being like popular magic definitely was that way definitely there would be a team up with like the starters as well like him being so much prepared to the extreme would be with the definite intent to like destroy like the fairy tale guild and the fairy tale guild numbers what no matter what like it's definitely my machine. Okay, so like the name episode I'm mentioned right now with the reveal that basically the giant magical doctor in front of like the Phantom Skill castle, like basically the of like the breaks magic, like having like the power, like destroy like the entirety of like the Magnolia. Like so definitely my impression is definitely that like so Joseph like would be definitely right now prepared to like basically get banned and removed from like the normal guild by the council. It's definitely my impression. That would be the reason for like him not to being even concerned about like destroy like the entirety of like the Magno, the entirety of Magnolia using is like a break magic. But remember like right now like the only goals in like Joseph's mind would be to like just like destroy like the phantom capture Lucy, hand over Lucy to like right now left only goal in like Joseph's mind would be to like just destroy like the fairy tale skip capture Lucy, get hand over Lucy to like quickly hand over Lucy to before like the council shows up like for like them to like quickly hand over Lucy to like Lucy's father. Get all that money like I'm wondering like even Lucy's father might have given a lot of money in advance like and that would be how like they might have definitely got all the like the benefits might have got to this level of strength. So definitely my program is that switching on to so, like on top of like that advance definitely like there would be like huge reward waiting for like Jose from Lucy's father. Like the moment Jose will be able to like hand over Lucy to like Jose father and to like Lucy's father, the moment Jose will be able to hand over Lucy to like Lucy's father. So to like to get quickly get all that money and then for like Jose and his like and the team of like Sanders to like then straight up. straight away at that point for them to like to plan like the plans good and then like for them to like straight away go join like the dark Hills, which like they might have already discussed like just like the dark Hills and like the dark Hills might have already agreed because like on top of like them like the fans sharing that villainous nature of like the dark Hills, like on top of that like basically Jose might have also talked about like basically all the money that we will be getting from like this is part of the moment he will get a hand over Lucy. So like I'm assuming that the Darkest that felt that like all that money would come in handy for them as well. Once like as Jose and like the kind of kids once they would be getting disbanded and joining like the Darkest at that point, like all that money as well would be falling into the Darkest hands would be also of course like the Darkest would be thinking. So like the Darkest as a whole would be able to like grow insights as well like with all that money will be get able to like get help hold of longer would be along the lines like with our kids would be thinking. So like this would be along the plans of like Jose and right now is definitely Michael Surya or like my person very impressionate for like the other possibilities for like Jose maybe like Jose's plans Lucy to that they will quickly hand over Lucy and get once he gets all that money reward money from like Lucy's father like basically at that point for him to like basically straight away with this like captain being able to like walk and move around like like for him to like quickly get out of like the territory where all the normal gifts are and for him to like straight away declare like at that point then for him to like, straight away declare like the Phantom skill as like a dark skill and basically for him to like quickly get his like Phantom skill castle to move from like the river like all the normal guilds are to like the river like all the dark guilds are and to for him to like uh, set up this new base of like the Phantom Spirit, like as like at that point being like a dark field, like their new base being in like the dark way of like the dark field. That and then at that point for me to like work together with the dark field might be like the other possibility or like what the plan of like Jose would be is definitely would be interesting for Jose to like work with the other doctors at that point to work along with them to achieve like their common goal. It should be also like right now maybe like would be also like a common goal of Jose as well and like fancy with as well, which might be to like destroy like the entirety of like all the normal things. Maybe like even bring down like the nonsense. Also like a possibility that I'm going to bring another chamber. Okay, so like the Lima Korean president right now was like Gray talking about like splitting up between like Elfman and Gray and basically finding like the power that's like running the entire system of like the giant chassis of like the fan. Like I'm different like that system that would be running it would be precisely those like people, great number of people with like a bunch of people with like wearing like the dark clothes. Like I'm different like them would be like the ones that would be like using all this like forbidden assessment, creating all like a circle like that's and everything. So like I'm very sitting to my different impression that like they would be either like fancil members who might have received powers from like their self like eventually getting like access to like the forbidden abyss treatment or like they would be like last members. So definitely it should be either one of the two, definitely one of the two. So like I'm like with them splitting up. I'm going to bring like with an array to be gray as well as Elfman and most likely surfing throughout the castle and ending up with like I'm going to bring like Elfman as well as Gray. I'm going to bring to most likely and at end with them like running into like element four members of like the fantasy so, like both Gray as well as Elfman running into element four two element four members of like the fantasy like the scenario that I'm using by and Nasu would be like something all over like the castle and usually ending up reaching like the very top of area position where like all these like people with like the black wearing like the black clothes as well as like precisely like Jose would be. And I was wondering like at that point if like Natsu decides to like take on Jose, like if like Natsu versus Jose fight happens, then I was wondering is no matter how much like power Natsu brings out, like I'm wondering currently Natsu won't be at all strong enough to like bring down Jose. Especially my book game. So if like an Natsu versus Jose fight happens, then definitely Natsu won't be able to like defeat Jose at all. It's like the scenario that I'm expecting. But like I'm going to like if that like the scenario is like Natsu trying to fight Jose and Natsu totally thoroughly losing to the Jose, but like by then I'm just running maybe like if like exactly like even while like Totamaru is like an element for member yet like Natsu someone who was kind of like struggling against like Iron Gate, yet like since that very same Natsu was able to like defeat Orochimaru and considering like maybe like Elfman and Grey running into to other element four members and then being able to like defeat those element four members and it's also like about the attempt. So like that's the scenario that I'm pretty much like Grey would be precisely it would be precisely Grey that I'm bring would be precisely running into Arya, I think his name was like the first element four member who had basically uh, taken away like magic macros like magic like basically uh, so like basically like Grey would be most likely running into Arya and like the fight between Grey and Arya would be taking place while on the other side like another thing like it would be like a fight between Elfman and another element core member. So like while this will be happening like and I'm also pregnant as like Natsu will be fighting off the scenario is like Natsu will be right in the top and fighting like Jose and losing to like Jose. So like after Jose will be able to take Natsu's life like and the thing like especially by then like both Grey as well as like Elfman would have defeated their respective element four members fight and basically would have made it to that very top area. So like them showing up being the sole reason at that like at that point like Natsu being saved it's like the scenario that I'm going to So like I'm going to bring at that point I was bringing maybe that the scenario that happened. Then I was bringing like most likely like them like Grey possibly being able to like figure out that like instead of targeting Joffrey like they need to like take out these exact people wearing like the black wearing the dark cloak. So like them being like the people running like this entire system of like the giant dark his giant fantasy skill base. So like at that point I was like telling Nasu to like take them out and so like I was like maybe Nasu would be totally if that's the scenario then I was like Nasu and maybe like Elfman like quickly like attacking those when the people look like the those wearing the dark kind of like a clothes. So like I'm remembering like them being taken out quickly with like the scenario that I'm remembering while at that point like Grey would be trying to like stop trying to like stall time and prevent from like Jose attacking like Natsu and Elfman. It's also like about the scenario that I'm remembering. So like with those precise people wearing like the clothes like the moment they would be taken out and defeated like I'm thinking like all the and I was looking at them being really taken out and defeated, especially as like the abyss spirit magic would be like there will be as like there will be only like very few seconds for like the abyss spirit magic to like launch from all the great number of like magic circles like at that very last second is when last few seconds is when I was current especially those people wearing like clothes like would be get defeated and taken out. Like the scenario that I'm looking that way Magnolia being saved at that point is like the scenario that I'm looking and at that point, I was looking like Nasu totally like a great Nasu totally. At that point, I was looking like everything like the whole castle like basically ending up being in like a standstill at that point, like the scenario that I was doing. The castle would be losing all of its like strength and maybe even defensive power and everything. So like at that point, I was doing either for like the castle itself to like crumble down or like I was doing like at that point like they're telling Natsu that you know what to do now like and basically Natsu straight away destroying like using his like fury attack onto like the castle and destroying like the entire castle quickly. It's like the scenario that I'm in that way, like the entire castle coming down, crumbling down. It's like the scenario that I'm remembering. So at that point, like I'm remembering like Jose being like extremely angry and frustrated, yet like I'm remembering like at that point was like Natsu, Elfman, Grey, as well as the entire uh, as well as like the entire heritage guild members like present there, like all of them like being present at that point, like then it would be like Jose alone that would be at that point that like all the remaining element core members like by then like defeated and that was like right now my was impressions that like since, right now within the castle there is only like Natsu and Grey as well as like Elfman alone and also maybe like there will be only few members of like the element core that will be right now present within like the castle. It's also like my boundary emerges. So like I'm bring like them to getting defeated. And Jose at that point was like the his like precious castle destroyed and basically like his two element four members are still defeated. Like at that point like Jose deciding to like retreat and escape for like the time being and like the element four members even though they will be defeated like they will be also escaping precisely as like Natsu will be destroying like the castle is like the scenario that I'm expecting and my book So like definitely the Victorian version right now is for like Mira right now being worried for like the possibility of like Elfman's fighting against like the big shots like and especially with like Mira even still saying like as he is right now referring to like Elfman and especially with like Mira as well like in the past having been like a senior fairy tale film member but right now with her like losing that position and everything and it's like that like I think like kind of right now talking about that incident that changed all of them like basically I was remembering like especially it's like recently it was revealed that basically for like a wizard like that like magic would be having connection to their life source and like their lifespan and everything like to their life source and everything like basically since like definitely it might not only affect like the incidents that happened according to like kind of which would be precisely my concern to be precisely the depth of Nara's thought. Depth of Nara's sister, definitely Nara's sister, whom in like the past had been revealed to be like natural like that front with them taking up for like the egg of happy and everything like and the she might not definitely right and like the and precisely that girl that basically that person of happy had earlier seen in that precise I think like East Forest I think it's called like that will be definitely her spirit is definitely my book. She might not definitely that and it might have been definitely her spirit that basically Natsu as well as like happy alone might be able to see is also definitely my book impression. Or like maybe it might be just definitely my book impression. Or like I'm whispering her that might have been such an extreme shock. So like I'm whispering like even though initially it was just Natsu as well as like Mira's sister alone where that have this good friends and that bond growing between like Natsu and her. Like I'm considering like during the Nazi childhood, I'm considering like eventually I'm considering it especially with like Elfman as well being connected to that with like the egg of happy and everything. And like I'm considering like definitely eventually Elfman as well, like the bond between like Elfman as well as like the stuff of like Amara as well might have grown eventually. Especially my remembrance. So that like eventually once like maybe it might have been like maybe it might have been like Sekren that might have taken the life of Mira's sister was also one possible repository. Maybe like Sekren might have not intended to like specifically take her life, but like I'm also maybe so like my first three impressions are like Mira's sister that might have been like the first cause and like who it is, who it was that took the life of Mira's sister, like that might be one thing that like neither Mira nor Natsu nor Elfman nor anyone in executive would be like aware of even to the person they have to like choose it that mysterious person that had taken that had attacked and taken the life of like Mira's sister. Exactly my brother intention and my brother image is it's for like it to be either sequence or like an exceptionally strong dark indeed, especially my brother impression. So like if it is Segrain, my brother impression that like in that forest like maybe Segrain had like showed up there in the past with like some sort of a goal in some maybe like there might have existed some sort of like forbidden magic like thing like or like there or something like there in that cave forest. So like I would or like some forbidden magic in that cave forest. It's like Segrain might have been trying to like unlock and gain a special members and take a special member members. So like I'm wondering like all the target members might have been aware of that for the forbidden magic being present there in like these forms and even Mara might have been aware of that. So like I'm wondering like she might have one day uh casually might have been like totally walking around in like his forest or all by herself when like she might have seen Sekaran, but like she might have and I was wondering maybe even back then Sekaran might have been like a council member, but like I was wondering she might have not known that. If definitely like Mara sister might have not known that, but like she might have only seen like Sekaran trying to like undo that forbidden like magic so like I was looking like the people think like the esports there might have been like that stone structure or something where like that forbidden magic might have been sealed into. So like I'm wondering like Mira's sister might have one day by she might have been all by herself in esports. So might have seen Figurain trying to like undo and unlock that seal. So like at that point I was wondering like she might have totally like tried told Figurain that this is wrong and she might have Figurain might have told her to like go away and basically she might have like told repeatedly told Segre that like a forbidden magic and you should be doing good like and like at that point like Sakurai might have gotten angry and lectured. Sakurai might have used some sort of like a powerful magical attack. And basically, maybe that might have resulted in lecture. That was like one possibility that I'm talking about. So, uh, that Sakurai might have stolen that forbidden magic and taken that forbidden magic and Sakurai might have left. So, like, I'm going like, it might have been later on that when either Natsu or like, maybe it might have been Elfman that might have precisely, maybe like, or like I'm looking like it might have been like Natsu and Elfman that might have like basically with like her like Mira's sister like not showing up after like heading off to take a castle walking like that he's walked like basically Mira with like Mira's sister not returning back like and everything like Natsu might have totally gotten worried so like when Natsu might have already decided to like check it out so like Elfman might have totally joined Natsu and then Natsu and Elfman might have gotten that absolute shock in like his power when they might have only found like the sister of Mira at the and like the like his might have been that shock. And so, like, I was like, even though it might have been also a shock for like Natsu and but like it might have still somehow Natsu's like magical powers might have still not gotten affected. While in the case of Elfman, I was like Elfman's like magic powers as well as like Mira. Eventually, when Mira like that girl sister like Mira when she found out about her sister, that like as well like as well as Elfman's like magical powers might have easily gotten affected. And that shock is definitely one of the reasons. But like in the case of Natsu, and the different for some reason like Natsu might have totally gone numb and like somehow like I was it might have not like the shock might have turned Natsu numb and might have been in like the frozen like kind of like a state of like a feeling and maybe it might have not extremely affected like Natsu's magic alone like uh, not Nancy Magic alone, but like it might have not treated like Natsu or like any other character members like magical powers alone. But like it might have especially affected like Mira as well as like Elfman's magical power. Especially because of like them not being able to like handle that shock. Them and they might have not been able to like, handle that shock that like I was thinking. They might have been like the ones that might have totally gotten extremely reacted like an extremely emotional and might have gotten like extremely emotional and basically might have teared up and cried a lot and basically like all that might have totally affected their seriously affected Elfman as well as like Mirror powers of definitely my revision and Elfman even while Elfman my revision that Elfman might be only presenting to like and putting on the fake act as if he's like a tough guy but like they sound like Elfman might be like such a soft-hearted person, is definitely my worst friend. So like this might be like the common factor and the common link in most likely that ambassador might be like the preparation for like precisely it being possibly being like Nara as well as like Elfman alone possibly being the only two certain skill members that might have had like Nara magical power affected and greatly reduced with like the rest of Nara's system. It's definitely my worst impression. Also, definitely mentioned Korea production right now with like Mira right now being her, using a transformation magic and disguise as Lucy like basically having entered into like the castle of like the panel like I'm looking for like and right now with like Mara being so pretty worried for like Elfman I'm looking for like luck not being in like Elfman's favor and I'm looking for like with like Natsu Gray as well as Elfman splitting up I'm looking like the direction in which like Elfman would be like searching throughout like the throughout like the castle. Elfman would be precisely running into most likely one among like the strongest of like among like the element force like they were the revolution. So like Totamaru would be like the weakest among like the element force. So like I was like Elfman, the precise element force member that Elfman would be running to will be like one among the strongest. It's definitely my like strongest element force member. Definitely the revolution and I'm just like Elfman totally seriously getting defeated and like Elfman considering like that Elfman core member even about to take the life of Elfman. But like at that very last second would be when I'm supporting like precisely Mara would be showing up to that location. This guy is Lucy. This is like the scenario that I'm supporting and I'm supporting and my personal impression is that like at that point like it should be obvious for like Mara that like it will be already obvious for Mara that like Mara won't be able to like at all contribute in terms of like fighting. Uh, to basically bring down like the Falcon. So like I was like that would be the topic for like Mara even transforming into like Lucy to like basically save like everyone like all entire of the will by like having like Jose abduct her and basically take her to like this is home. It's definitely the plan of like and she would be expecting like eventually like the for like the character still to be able to to be able to like recover and basically once like she would be only hoping that once like old man Max or that like she would be only confident that like the character members will be able to like save Macro and once like Macro recovers like she will be like Lucy will be only I mean like Mara would be only planning on like by then like like by the time Macro would be recovering, like they would all be like once again teaming up and showing up in front of like into like towards like Lucy's hope and basically they are like they would be like basically saving and rescuing Mara would be like Mira's like expectation. Or like Mara would be only hoping that once like she would be brought to like the home uh, uh, that like basically once he would be brought by Jose to his father like at that point like maybe Mara would be totally planning on putting on a fake character like she's totally okay that she regrets like leaving home and all that time so for her to like totally put on a fake act and for her to like that way trick Lucy's father and basically once again escape from like Lucy's home might be like the possible plan of Black Mirror that never been done. So like anyway, next scenario that I was bring is Black for like Elfman would run into one among the stronger element for members like Elfman totally losing and getting defeated and as like the element for member would be able to take Elfman's life at that in that second. Mara showing up to that location, Mara ending up ending up to that first location and like left favoring Elfman at that point. So like I was like Mara transformed as Lucy, like I was like Mara putting on a fake act as if she's like Lucy and basically like telling that element for members to like not to spare Elfman that basically she is like she would like if that they can take her to like her father like basically that way like her putting on the fake act Mara putting on the fake act this like the scenario that I'm explaining and that way like told you to that fake act of like Mara like Elfman being spare and like that element for like taking Mara to like where Jose would be and I was like eventually once like the fight to be once like the eventually like that fight will be happening and basically once like so definitely the members with like the members of like the battlefield or like the dark elements anyway like the ones the people with like wearing like the cloth cloth like I'm like them easily being taken out right now in this like whole fight itself is like the scenario that I'm in that way like the bespread magic being stopped and and I'm thinking definitely even after even after like that element for member will be taking Lucy like Mara to get that Lucy to like Jose I'm thinking like Mara really succeeding in like tricking Jose as well and Jose definitely believing that like it's actually Lucy and still I'm considering like Jose like determined to like still deciding to like basically destroy like the entirety of Magnolia uh, using his like a whisper magic. So like at that point, I'm considering like Mara like putting on a fake while putting on a fake that was like she's Lucy like asking like Jose as to like doing this would be like ending with like your kind of skills getting removed from like the just of like normal gifts and like getting banned from like the normal gifts like just I'm definitely putting like stuff to like ask Jose and I'm also trying to be at that point that Jose will make it most likely making the reveal that basically that he's planning on upper handing Josie over and getting the reward money that like Joseph sorely planning on straight away declaring his like kind of skills as like a dark hill and move on to like the surface of like the dark hill. That reveal I'm considering most likely happening at that point. It's the scenario that I'm considering. So like eventually I'm considering like the people with the dark clothes, people with like that wearing like the clothes like I'm considering them taken out and I'm considering then like the entirety of like the castle being destroyed by Nantu and basically at that point I was relaxed even though like the element by then like the element form of uh I was running like there were only two element force members in like the castle. Two or three at most, like including Totamaru and the most like there would be only three element force members, like one movie floating is in right now. would be not here in like the castle right now with like the scenarios that I'm posing. So like I was like by then like those two elements for members as well being taken out and defeated. Either that or like I'm wondering like those elements for members won't be like thoroughly defeated or anything, but like I'm wondering like those people wearing like the clothes like them definitely getting defeated and like the castle being like castle of the and being destroyed, and at that point it as like the castle would be like getting destroyed and falling apart, like at that point I was wondering like most likely, like Jose, along with like the 11 core members that would be present in like the castle, like succeeding in like quickly Jose like capturing and escaping from like the castle with like Mira would be like still the case that's is like the scenario that I'm looking for. So and at that point, I was considering like Mara keeping up her disguise as like Lucy, and that would be like Mara's like consciously, and I'm considering Mara consciously doing that even while getting abducted and taken away at that last point, by Jose and his like element for member. But at that point, I'm considering like to be like a conscious decision by like Mara to like basically to also while ensuring like the protection of like the actual Lucy for her to like also that she would also would be like seriously curious and wants to find out why if like Lucy's father wanting like Lucy back like basically the intent is like genuine it's like Lucy's father regrets uh, his like mistakes and basically it has turned good and basically genuinely wants Lucy back or like basically it's like some sort of a trap set for like Lucy or something like basically they like to find out the truth behind why Lucy's father right now wants Lucy back. Like I'm looking like maybe there's also that intent like I'm looking like Mara at that point like keeping up her disguise as Lucy while Jose as well as the element four members will be like getting tricked by in Mara thinking it's like Lucy and making it that way like Jose taking like Mara to like the form or like palace of like Lucy's father. It's like the canary that I'm looking for. Okay, so like definitely not the Korean person right now with like so they're being so easily able to like see through like Mara this guy of like Lucy and the like it will be solely due to like Jose being like a celestial wizard, like and everything like all that experience as well as like all that power that will be required for like someone to be like to reach like the position of being like a celestial wizard, like and everything like definitely because of solely because of that would be like the first reason like but like those I would be easily able to like see through transformation magic. That's because of all that experience and power that he would be like actually truly prophetic. Definitely my one would but and my one would is like it wouldn't just be like Jose, but like all extremely high level wizard all and all the wizards in like who have reached like the position of like being like celestial wizards, they would all be able to like easily like see through the this transformation magic disguise of like any transformation magic disguise of any wizard of any lower ranking wizard like it's definitely my motivation. While at the same time like like if it was like a transformation magic done by macros, then I'm going to bring like maybe like Jose might have totally fallen for it because like if you because like a transformation magic done by like someone of like a high level um by like a high level wizard will be having that much more of like a perfection. It's definitely my good impression. And so definitely my good impression right now that's definitely even though so definitely Lisana might have definitely died. So like I'm just thinking because Lisana that might have of that such an extreme mega power drop in like both uh, both like Elfman as well as like Rambo preparing still them eventually like totally overcoming that extreme drop in strength with like the scenario that I'm seeing. Them not only overcoming that extreme drop in strength, but like them eventually bypassing and overcoming all that and them struggling their way into like eventually like the difficulties of getting even stronger, even surpassing like the strength that they had before Thanos, that like even surpassing that strength and getting even more stronger in like the difficulties of and those are something like both it will just be like more about like Elfman as well, like reaching that level of strength and like the strength is just definitely the scenario that I'm doing. And so one other possibility that I'm considering right now is that like with like Mara right now feeling like extremely insecure and like about like her not being her while being like a fairy tale film member, like the fact that like her not being able to like make herself useful to like the fairy tales even with her transformation magic attempt as well, failing like and Lucifer like this like whole situation like Lucifer and discovered within like Mara and Lucifer only pushing Mara to like basically to run off into like the castle. It's like the scenario that I'm so like I'm considering like the case of Elfman, I'm considering maybe of like a scenario in which like Elfman definitely while definitely bringing Elfman to run into like element force member like I'm considering like still Elfman will be like really trying to like fight that and defeat that element force member, but definitely that limitation would be like obviously present and I'm considering like Elfman not being able to like bring out his like true powers and like basically at that point like that element four member like target getting Elfman as like the element four member will be able to take Elfman like member something like Mira who would have like infiltrated into that run off into like and then into that cabin precisely coincidentally ending up in that precise location as like that element four member will be able to take Elfman like the scenario that I'm delivering. So like solely due to like Mira showing up like the focus of of like that element for member shifted from Elfman to Mira like the scenario that I was different. So like I was doing like Mira totally like desperately trying to like bring out her power, like trying to like fight as she used to fight before Lisana stuff like basically back when she was like a senior there, if you remember. So like I was doing like Mira desperately trying to like bring out that power and basically like trying to use her magic combat style magic. But like I'm doing like while she would be like while Mara would be attempting for that, like I'm it's totally affecting Mara's health, as like the scenario that I'm discussing. So like at that point, I'm considering like while Healthman would be like defeated and would be on the sideline, like I'm considering like that element for member like deciding to like take the life of like seriously injuring Mara and like as that element for member will be about to take the life of Mara while like Healthman will be seeing that from like the sidelines and like just like that element for member will be able to take the life of Mara. Like Mara won't be able to like Mara able to like do anything at all at that point, and Mara at that point would be totally feeling that defeated as like Mara would be herself would be feeling like a failure at that point, and that like was and the end as if like this is the end, and basically as and I'm looking at Mira feeling as if like she's about to die at that point. But like I'm considering it to get that very last second, like I'm considering like that situation of like seeing on top of like the whole thing with like Nissan that's possibly having like affected Elfman so much. Like on top of that, like right now at that point, like where like I'm considering like scenario to be like the elements of member about to take Mara's life as well. So the similarity, like since like the connection, since like Lisana, since like Mara like Lisana, so like basically Elfman would be having that kid as well with the change that basically he should have been there for like Lisana. If he was there like Lisana would have died. Like there might have been like some sort of plus again but then Elfman, especially among them. So like right now as like Elfman would be being like about to die by the hands of that Elfman for member. Like at that point I was feeling like that that's only pushing Elfman to be able to like bring out like his like true power within Elfman. It's like the scenario that I was bring and that like true power of Elfman like coming out and basically with that power like Elfman totally destroying like that element for member like totally overpowering and defeating and destroying like that element for member like the scenario that I was bring and with that true power of like Elfman I was like that element for member like not even standing a chance like and I'm possible like it not even being like a barely a victory for like Elfman barely defeating that element for member and choosing the victory and possible like it would I'm possible for it to go even beyond that like Elfman only crushing and destroying like that element for member and suddenly defeating that element for member like the scenario that I'm possible and like definitely Marab would be like from like the sidelines seeing this and like Elfman Elfman, that achievement will be that absolute inspiration and hope for Mara at that point. That basically she too, since like Elfman was like affected exactly like Mara from her sister, son of that like uh, still since like Elfman right now has basically overcome that whole drop in his like power and strength. Like basically that being that ultimate example of like an absolute hope and like a confirmation for like the Mara at that point that basically she too will be able to like eventually one day will be able to like bring back get back her powers exactly like Elfman. like basically that's like the scenario like Elfman defeat of like Elfman defeating like element for like giving that absolute hope to like Amara that he will get stronger. Like it's like the little scenario that I'm just bringing another dream question. Oh, so like definitely another dream question right now with like the current scenario being like Mira being captured by like the giant castle and basically with like Joseph right now trying to like chase the life of Mara. Like I'm just deciding to like take the life of Mara. Like I'm just definitely the scenario right now. I'm definitely for like with like as well as like Elfman's current fight happening against like one of the elements for member like Soul. I think like definitely one of the impressions for right now is that like definitely a parallel thing to like happen where like I'm just putting like both while separately Elfman considering definitely the initially totally is struggling against that element for member. So while Amber on the parallel like Mira would be totally struggling by considering like that giant like Jose using like the Jose Jose like through like the control of like, the giant like considering like seriously hurting and making Mara suffer. It's like the scenario that I'm referring. So like I'm considering like initially Mara totally feeling like a failure at that point that she can't even save herself, let alone saving others. Like basically along such lines like Mara totally feeling. So like I'm considering like potentially eventually like as like Elfman will be struggling way to like eventually like considering that fight against Soul like I'm considering as Elfman is totally getting thoroughly overpowered by Soul like I'm considering like Elfman totally remembering Lisana in that fight during that fight and then the like definitely like Elfman might have like some sort of a skill that basically so at that point, like I was like maybe like an Elfman, like remembering Lisan and basically Elfman totally at that point feeling us like basically he can't stay weak. Like if he wants to like ensure that no the fairy tale still member dies like Lisan, then we need to get seriously strong. Like maybe along the lines like Elfman at that point, like maybe having that kind of like a realization, kind of like a moment, and at that point like Elfman that was thinking, allowing Elfman to be able to like bring out his like pro point and with that like Elfman only overpowering and defeating Sword. While this would be happening simultaneously, I'm also bringing the Mara would be at that point would be like suffering by like the strength of like the giant. Like at that point, I was bringing like Mara as well feeling like a failure, but like at that point, Mara as well possibly maybe in parallel like thinking of like Lisana and basically Mara as well like basically that thoughts like all those thoughts like finally pushing like Nora as well into being able to like bring out those strengths and like I'm saying like at that point like with that those strengths of like Nora being unlocked like that strength that Nora had like when Nora was like a senior where we did not reduce that strength like Nora totally destroying like the arm of like the giant and I'm also going to be precisely at that point that I'm considering like natural wealth would be from within would be like starting to like destroy like the uh would be precisely it would be precisely during that natural would have and like those would have taken out like the flock members who are controlling like the giant castle. So like I'm referring like then Natsu after taking them out like Natsu as well like basically destroying like the castle from within like while like Mara would be destroying like the castle from like the outside and I'm just knowing that like the scenario that I was saying. Okay, so like the clay of memory I'm question right now as for like right now so noticing that Elfman like beats and basically like Saul even saying that the rumors are true like basically and asking that Elfman if he had like a little but like I'm also like definitely my total impression that like so like the fan you might have had that absolute rivalry like not a healthy, unhealthy kind of like a rivalry and like that absolute disaster like destroy and jealousy and possibly between jealousy and like disaster like destroy like the circle like the fantasy girl like Joker as well as like and as fans you might have had that disaster for its own times, especially maybe the reaction. Even while Lisana was like a fairy tale skill member, even before Lisana's death was definitely was the famous. So like I'm thinking like when like as to like my good impressions that as like how it's like right now as like how it's like the Sana might have died like I'm like it might have been like a beast or like a monster or like a demon that might have totally that totally the Sana might have run into in like maybe in like in form of like somewhere while it's definitely while Lizana might have been all by herself, it's definitely what might have happened is definitely going to so like I'm whispering that monster or like that demon might have taken or power and taken Lizana's life. Like I'm whispering that so maybe like while that monster was attacking Lizana, like maybe that monster might have been so exceptionally or like it might have been an exceptionally strong demon. Like maybe it might have it could also be like one of like Zaraf demons as well. So for like about the temple system. So like maybe that's also about this. So like back then I'm also like uh society in that fight like I'm also like while that demon might have been like, attacking Lisana. Because like Lisana uh back then had grew up and basically was a pair still member. Like even Lisana might have had like a certain level of strength. So like I'm like still that demon might have been so exceptionally strong. So like Sana might have been totally struggling. And at that point, like while the demon was attacking the Sana, I'm like by then like I'm like it might have been precisely Edman as well as like Elfman as well as like Mara that might have been nearby. So like they might have quickly showed up to like save Lisana. So like in that fight, I'm considering like even with like Mara being like a senior player, I still remember back then like I'm considering like Mara like even with the combined effort of like Mara as well as like Elfman as well, like still like that demon might have been so exceptionally strong that like it might have still defeated Mara as well as like Elfman, and then that would be what might have resulted in like basically like the uh, demon then targeting Lisana, and then like the demon might have taken the life of Lisana whilst and might have it might have been precisely Elfman as well as like Mara that might have they might have seen like Lisana's death by like that demon is like might was very much so like that like how like that might have been such an extremely shock for and it might be the precise reason like I'm right now check the possibility that I'm considering is that maybe it might have been just precisely like Mira as well as like Elfman alone that might have witnessed the death of like the death of Lisan and maybe that might be the reason of for like that might be too much for like affected so much like and that might be the reason for like it might have been precisely like Elfman as well as like Mira alone that might have had the massive power drop due to like the death of Lisana. It might be because like they might have actually witnessed the death of Lisana definitely and that might have been that much of a shock and affected their power definitely might be very much so what might have happened to the like listen of that like I'm looking like even the shock like I'm looking like Mara like Mara like Lisana owns system like definitely in Mara would be Lisana own system while Lisana would be like the sister to Elfman is definitely my favorite. So like the moment like Mara had seen like Lisana die by that demon like at that point it's like Mara might have been totally it might have affected Mara so much that like Mara might have not been even able to like do anything at all. Like Mara might have been frozen and at that point like it might have been Elfman that might have totally been reacted in like an extremely enraged manner. Like even with the shock and sadness like there might have been that absolute rage within like uh have might have happened within like Elfman and with that the rage like Elfman might have totally like fought that demon and might have defeated and taken the life of that demon. And like it might have been like that like demon precisely when Elfman might have defeated that demon, like Elfman might have gotten that demon's arm as like Elfman's arm. Specifically, and that would be like the present day Elfman's legacy's arm would be like the precise arm of that precise demon that might have taken the life of Lisanna, definitely might have been the reimbursement. So maybe like Elfman might have even discovered that he has such a power like only after like uh, defeating that demon. It's also definitely member of the reimbursement. So like this news might have like spread like that at the top like Lisan and how like basically one of like the fairy tale still member by the name Elfman had basically defeated that or demon and basically had that way taken it and that demon's arm is now like basically Elfman's arm. Like Elfman can use that demon's arm in like a fight right now. Like basically this rumor this news might have totally spread and reached like the fans guild even back then. So like might have turned into that like the fans guild might have only celebrated like since like it was like a sad situation for like the fairy tale still like like the and still might have only celebrated back then. And even back then, like Soul might have been like a fanatical member of definitely member of Prince. Whether he was elements for member or like whether he was like a lower rank member of the fantasy skill, Soul might have definitely been like a member of like the fantasy skill, and that might be how that's the reason for like right now Soul is saying that like so the rumor were true like basically just by being like Elfman like these straight away for Soul to like say talk about like the rumor being true and basically that like straight away for Soul to like ask Elfman about like uh, in Elfman having like little system and all that like basically it would be precisely because of this reason especially my person theory and for instance for like about the thing. So like with the flame with reimbursement right now with Blackstone right now selling like Elfman that basically he has basically paid that like a full body takeover and basically has lost control. Like basically I'm afraid like this might have happened due to like maybe like, my those reimbursements are like the other possibility that I'm also thinking is maybe like Nisana that might have absolutely nothing to do with like Elfman his is definitely not reimbursed as for like the other population. So like I'm also like still that the fact that might have resulted in like Lisana's death might not just be like a Lisana being weak, but like like definitely precisely Esman as well as like Mara might have been present precisely when Lisana might have died. So like I'm thinking like it might have been those two like Esman as well as Mara not being strong enough during then back then that Lisana might have ended up dying. It's definitely remember the end. So like after Lisana's death, like Amber Susan, and even that shock like greatly might have reduced like straight away reduced like the powers of Elfman as well as like Mara. So like Amber Susan, Elfman might have at that point like Elfman on top of like the shock of like Lisana's death, like Elfman might have had this fear set in the sentence that basically someone so extremely precious to Elfman back then, like Lisana with like a member of like the Paradise Guild, like that were dying like another like Elfman might and simultaneously Elfman trying uh, dropping seriously Ambassador like Elfman might have been in that absolute fear that basically of like the possibility of like in like the future like any other fairy tale guild member dying in a similar manner. So like Ambassador like in order to like prevent that like Elfman at that point was like having his like strength drop, like field strength drop, like Elfman might have been determined to like get stronger. So like with that determination, like Elfman, like right now, like sort of revealing that like Elfman has failed in like a full body takeover and basically had lost control. Like that might have been like at that point might have been like in the past might have been like Elfman attempt at getting stronger by like taking over like the fully taking over like the body of like some powerful monster or like a beast that might have been what like Ant-Man might have attempted in like the past and it might have failed. And that failure might have resulted in not only Ant-Man maybe losing control, but like after like finally once like the remaining characters member might have found Ant-Man and calmed him down like and that might have also still through that failed the full body takeover like it might have still resulted in like Ant-Man being able to have his like these is the claim I was going to so like just the arm alone of that beast that Elfman might have tried to like fully take over the body. Like I'm looking like its arm, I'm looking like Elfman might have like it only might have been like the arm portion of that beast that Elfman might have been able to like take over. So that might be like the percentage Elfman like beast magical power. It might have resulted in it might have been what resulted in like Elfman having like beast power. So definitely my temperature and I'm also like Elfman still won't be knowing how to like fully take over like to do a full body takeover, but still I'm looking like Elfman uh, since then would be having like the power to like basically replace its like Elfman's like current beast arm with like any other arm of like any beast that Elfman defeat like I'm looking like at that point like Elfman would be able to like take over replace the current beast arm with like the arm of that beast. That's definitely my favorite. So like precisely because of this reason, I'm also supporting like Alpha might have even endured to like basically not fight any beast or monster precisely because like Elfman it might have been an extremely high priority for Elfman to like only fight a beast. Even if Elfman fight beast in like the future, like Elfman might be like having that conscious intent to like only fight a beast that's like far stronger than like the beast that like Elfman has had already fought off in like the past, and basically like the beast whose arm that right now belongs to Elfman, like basically like if Elfman fights a beast that's like weaker than that beast, then like Elfman's current arm would be most likely replaced with the arm of like that weaker beast. So like that way Elfman would be fearing this overall when he disgracing such a man. So like I was from like especially because of this reason my first impression that like Elfman might be someone who ensures that like he doesn't take any sort of like wizard mission that will be involving like the taking down of any beast. It's definitely my first impression. Okay, so like definitely going to impression right now with like soul creating like illusions of like a bunch of Lisana and like them all asking like Elfman as like how figures could do something so well like I'm bring like definitely so definitely like Elfman basically Elfman's like body takeover attempt as well as like Elfman losing control like basically this would have like it's definitely would be having like a direct connections uh, to like listen to stuff name of a friend. So like I'm assuming like what might have happened would be like exactly like how in like the beginning, like basically how like one of like the older fairy tale still member like basically during like Natsu's mission like earlier very earlier mission of like Lucy had initially joined like the fairy tale still like they're like I'm assuming like since like back then like basically one of like the eight monsters had basically uh, taken over like that sport member, parental skill member, like I'm considering like in a similar manner for like using like magical powers, like I'm considering like and the training like I'm considering like even wizards will be able to like to take over of like monsters as well. It's definitely my personal impression. So like that I'm considering like what might have happened will be in like the past, like I'm considering like in the past, like Elfman might have wanted to like get stronger at some point. It's definitely my brain. So like Elfman might have totally back when Elfman was young, like he might have badly wanted to like get stronger at some point, and he might have totally sought the help of like the senior fairy tales guild member, uh, Mira back then. Definitely, and he might have told Mira that like he badly wants to get stronger. So like I'm looking like Mira might have at that point felt that it would be like a great idea to basically teach Elfman like the whole body takeover technique. Definitely with remember. So like what might have happened would be like Mara might have totally taken Elfman to like maybe like eat for like where like I'm like this monster might have been present. Just like I'm there might be like a specific location in like each forest where like uh, specific location deep within your street for where like this specific storm like monsters it might be like living. So like I was thinking like what might have happened would like Mara might have only taken Elfman there for like training to like get Elfman stronger by teaching Elfman like the body takeoff technique. So like I was thinking like only unexpectedly like the monster that might have been present there might have been like way stronger than like maybe like Mira might have expected, and I'm considering like Elfman like might have attempted like with like Mira's training like Elfman might have like attempted like the whole body takeover on that monster, and I'm considering like at that point Elfman might have totally lost control, and I'm considering like Elfman might be like might have I'm considering like Elfman might have turned into like that monster, but like I'm considering like that attempt not being success, but like I'm considering like it might have like due to that attempt being a failure. I'm considering like the scenario might have been Elfman being turned into that monster, taking over the body of like that monster, but like Elfman totally losing control. So like I'm considering like Elfman then might have like and even like Elfman's like already existing power might have combined with like the power of certain monster as well at that point. It might have been what might have happened. So like I'm considering like at that point like since that monster might have been totally contrary to like the expectations of Mara might have been way stronger than Mara might have been expected. Like on top of that, like with like Elfman as well, Elfman strength as well, most likely having like added to magical powers, having like added to that monster's strength and powers. Like I'm thinking like at that point, like Mara might have been totally struggling to stop and calm down Elfman. Like he was totally losing control. So like I'm also bring like while this was like only going on, like I'm considering like Lusana might have like casually showed up during the force that might have heard this noise and Lisana might have completely showed up there. So like at that point, like at least Mira on one side was like totally might have been totally struggling against like the uncontrollable Elfman. So like at that point, like when Lisana showed up, like Elfman might have not even been able to like recognize Lisana at all. So like at that point, like the uncontrollable Elfman might have like totally attacked Lisana and like him might have been totally extremely that like strength of Elfman might have been too much that amazing point like Lisana might have died right there. It while like exactly, Mara might have been the little sister, like Susanna might have been what might have happened. So like I'm considering like especially after attacking Susanna and like when Susanna died, like at that moment might be when like Elfman might have like Elfman was like totally out of control, might have totally finally calmed down. But like that shock might have totally like brought Elfman out of like the body position state of like that monster. And basically at that point, like Elfman might have came out of like Elfman might have came out of like that body position state. Like I'm assuming like at that point would be like it would be through that training that body controlling body type of training that might have resulted in like Elfman possessing the arm to definitely my impression. And that arm would be like the arm of that monster, certainly also my primary impression. But like that monster might have totally lost its arm and then like I'm considering like when Elfman got separated from like that monster, like I'm considering with that monster on the seeing how it has lost its arm and like it's like the pain of like train at that point. I was wondering that monster might have ran away at that point. So this, like, what might have happened? And Elfman might have been back to his selection when Elfman had seen like Insana dead right in front of him, and like Elfman might have suddenly realized like what he had done, and basically that might have been like that such an extreme shock for like Elfman and uh, Elfman as well as Nora that like that might have been how like their life form like since like their magic is connected to it has already been revealed that this is like magic is like magical powers are connected to their life force like that might have only affected them so much that like uh, so much that like I'm wondering like their magic powers hence might have certainly Elfman as well as like Mara's life like, match about might have greatly dropped. Definitely what might have happened. This definitely might have been the reimbursement. Okay, so like the name of the reimbursement right now is for like soul to like villain of attacks to like basically to turn Elfman into land and basically to always trap Elfman in such a manner to like all so that like Elfman would be like always remaining trapped with Elfman like unpleasant memories like I'm so that like to make Elfman suffer forever like I'm just like when was attack of like soul totally deeply backfiring on souls like the scenario that I'm looking and right now it's like Elfman totally like seeing all the memories of like the incident that happened in like Elfman's like in like the past of like Elfman like I'm just like it could be all part of like Elfman slowly turning into land and basically it would be like just Elfman being turned from like a person to like just only memories like all the unpleasant memories of like Elfman's life but like I'm just like how it will be totally backfiring on society solved it will be perfectly through like the unpleasant memories that like Elfman had thought were unpleasant. This was in Elfman's like mind this entire time. Like I'm like through like this magic of like soul and Elfman will be getting the chance to like take a retake and to get a relook into all those memories once again. And this time, since like Elfman right now has grown up a lot and matured a lot, like definitely Elfman would be able to like see as Elfman right now is like seeing all those past memories, like Elfman would be able to like realize that basically what he thought were unpleasant memories weren't so extremely unpleasant that like right now with like Elfman being way more mature and like a grown up, like I'm assuming Elfman would be able to like see like have more clarity into those memories that he had thought that were like thoroughly unpleasant. That I'm assuming like that thing that felt like I'm assuming like remove a lot of guilt from within Elfman is like the scenario that I'm assuming. So like as like Elfman will be turning into land and like all these memories would be like right now Elfman would be like once again seeing all these memories like Elfman right now being able to like see all those memories with clarity and That way, like that only is helping and allowing Elfman to like get rid of a lot of like false guilt that Elfman might have had in his mind in his heart this entire time. It's definitely the scenario that I'm considering. And on top of all this, like I'm considering towards the end of like Elfman would be as Elfman would be seeing all these memories, like I'm considering towards like the end as Elfman would be like about to like fully turn into land. I'm considering at that very last moment, the scenario that I'm considering is definitely for like Lisana's spirit, which like Natsu talks to in like even to the present day in like these forms, like I'm considering that spirit of Lisana, like precisely being able to like sense like the things going on with like Elfman right now with like Elfman, like so like I'm considering that spirit of Lisana only coming in to like save and her brother to save her big brother. Let's manipulate the scenario that I'm considering. So like I was considering like Lisana traveling from East Forest and as a kid like Lisana we have like moved to Kiri. So like Lisana traveling from East Forest and so probably I think like it's a East Forest that Lisana spirit right now mainly saves them. So like I'm considering Lisana traveling from East Forest and quickly making it to like where the location where like into like quickly traveling and showing up into like Elfman's memories and mind. Like they really they are like the state of Lisana would be able to like enter there and like Lisana the state of Lisana in like how she is in like the present like that spirit of Lisana right now talking to like Elfman like the scenario that I'm delivering and through that interaction I'm delivering like Elfman finally being able to like, get that for Lord Hostel's lecture and basically finally be able to like realize that basically took the step even to the present day like totally proud of her like big brother and still loves her big brother Elfman to this very present day as well. Like Elfman totally realizing that and basically that way like the entire guilt within Elfman that way being released is like the scenario that I'm considering and I'm considering like after Elfman like I'm considering like Xana's spirit like going up to precisely and appearing in front of Mira as well. Right now as like Mira is like only struggling and suffering by the giant castle of like the panic field. Like at that point, self like I'm looking at like Mira is like suffering after like Elfman like straight away. I'm suffering like Lisana showing up in Lisana's spirit showing up in front of like Mira as well, and like giving Lisana's spirit like giving like basically removing like the guilt out of like Mira as well. It's like the scenario that I'm suffering, and that way like in parallel simultaneously I'm suffering like Elfman as well as like Mira's like true strength, the strength they had back when back when like Mara was like a senior therapist team member and like back when like Elfman before like Lisana died, like the strength that Elfman had, like the strength and the freedom to like fight that basically that like both Elfman as well as like Mara had, like them getting that back basically. Right now, it's like the scenario that I'm doing. Maybe like not just that, but like I'm doing like on top of that, like with their whole victory, could have finally with them and considering like them to like finally be relieved of their kids and basically that way like that allowed them to like reach new levels of strength. Right now it's also the scenario that I'm also doing. Just that like I'm also thinking definitely Gitana, I mean like Mara totally breaking away of like the castle giant castle of like the panel's guild while like Elfman will be thoroughly offering and destroying Soul and considering like the scenario like the see the possibility of like Soul actually dying by the hands of like Elfman. Elfman's like please it's like the scenario that I'm considering. So like I'm considering maybe at that point like with that power of freedom which I'm considering to happen for like Elfman, I'm considering most likely maybe like Elfman uh Elfman like it completes this like changing like with like I'm considering maybe like Elfman using its like magic from that point on being able to like completely go Elfman from that point on like going from like just a single beast power to like basically being able to like fully transform into like that ultimate strong beast. So basically while he would be like using his like magical powers like Elfman fully being transformed into like that full beast and that way like if I'm being able to like use the full strength of like that seriously strong beat is like and using that like element only crushing and destroying and overpowering and defeating and taking the life of soul is like the middle scenario that I'm considering as for right now and I'm considering okay, so like the cinema is the representation right now that basically even though like Lisana was like seriously young when she had died, like I'm the like Lisana might have been like an extremely mature cat, but definitely my first impression. For her case, definitely my first impression. So definitely right now with like Lisana, with like Mara being like Elfman thing with memory and like with that Mara being thoroughly repeated and like Lisana casually just without any fear like Lisana like casually walking up towards like the uh, the beast, the completely controlled like towards like Elfman who has fully turned into like the beast and has lost control like with like Luciana so casually walking towards like the beast and talking to the beast as if like it's like as if like he's talking to like casually talking to Elfman like I'm the friend like even at that point like definitely like Luciana would be like extremely scared because like what exactly Luciana at that point through her actions might have been doing would be like her she would be like trying to like protect precisely especially with like Vistana even doing that precisely after like Vistana finding out that that piece would be like taking over fully taking over like Elfman like if they don't stop Elfman basically along the lines it's like Vistana had heard that much from like Mara like I'm the different like certainly what Lisana would be right now doing would be like Lisana would be like Lisana would be only feeling that basically like through her casual interaction like even though Lisana would be like Lisana first of all would be having that deep fear within her which she would be like she would be like totally desperately trying to like hide uh would be doing her best to like hide from hide from Mara. It's definitely a good chance like what Lisana would be might have been attempting at that point might have been to like basically like Lisana might have been at that point, might have been totally prepared to die at that point. Like basically, so like Mitochondria predictions that like at that point, like what Lisana might have been attempting would be like Lisana might have been totally trying to like protect not just Nara but also Elsman by like even if it takes requires like her to die by the hands of like the beast Elsman. Even if like that shock basically brings back like that would be also along the lines that I'm going to bring like extremely like I'm looking like Lisana might have even so even along to that extent that I'm looking like Lisana might have not had that much of like a hope of like especially after like her seeing how like the Beast man have already like Mara so much like to don't Mara so much like I'm looking like Lisana might, what he might have been having through her casual interactions to like the fully transformed beast and uncontrol and beast Elfman who has no control with it. Maybe like Lisana maybe might have been trying to basically even throw her death to take the shock of her death like that might have been what like Lisana might have been only betting on and hoping for like basically even if that the beast take her life that at least through that shock like maybe for like Elfman to be able to like be able to like come to the senses like and basically for Elfman to be saved as well as simultaneously for like Mira her sister Mira as well to be saved simultaneously at that point like basically to possibly maybe to like make this happen will be like the potential reason for like Lisana right now in like advanced memory like Lisana, even having like basically without even attacking like Lisana, having like casually even show walking towards like the beast and who has no control and basically even casually talking to the beast as if he's talking casually talking to Elfman. Definitely my was very understood. So like definitely very understand right now with like Elfman seeing like the memories and basically being disturbed and trying like seeing once again seeing with the memories of like Lisana stuff. Like basically definitely right now Casman will be the only thing that basically Lisana might have never expected like that Elfman like after turning into like the beast and losing control like he would have totally attacked and taken the life of Lisana. Like Lisana might have never expected that would be along the lines that Elfman would be thinking and that would be one main factor for like Elfman extreme pain within like Elfman's heart. It's definitely my very impression. But like I'm assuming like without much delay at all. Like I'm afraid like either it's seeing like Lisana spirit itself like showing up or like most likely that's like the scenario that I'm expecting to like Elfman's memories like Lisana spirit showing up and basically actually like Lisana's spirit from his form showing up and telling Elfman that basically that back then like she knew that she was going to die by the beast but like she had done that to like precisely to save like Elfman, so that to save Elfman as well as like sister Mira, so that she died so that like basically they could live. So like basically so like her still telling Elfman at that point right now that like so like don't you dare die like basically so that like you have to live like basically along the lines I'm also bringing like Lisana's spirit like right now telling showing up in like Elfman's memory and telling that to like Elfman, and that would be like bring like the biggest shock for Elfman. That realization I'm also going to be like that absolute biggest shock for Elfman, and that like I'm like totally at least being able to like get rid of a whole lot of like Elfman like guilt like the scenario that I'm also bringing that like I'm also bringing like those words of like those final words of like Lisana spirit like I'm also like Elfman like bouncing back to life and basically like destroying and breaking that like land magic of like soul and basically crushing and destroying and defeating and taking the life of souls like living the scenario that I'm also bringing and also bringing. I guess like definitely something very impression right now with like Elfman being having that ultimate full body takeover and like Elfman turning into that beast soul like and definitely one of the impression of like right now, like even while being in that full beast form, like I'm looking like Elfman would be right now being in precisely fully in control is definitely my very attention. It will be this time it will be totally different and Elfman will be totally fully in control, definitely not the same. So like it will be precisely that like part alone that was like incomplete transformation of like the beast, like I'm looking like that might have like through this like intense emotional situation, like I'm looking like that part of like the beast might have taken over like the entirety of like the body of like Elfman, while Elfman might have done that with that approach in an absolutely conscious manner this time. It's definitely one of the time. So definitely my personal and prediction right now is that like so like definitely one of the predictions that like right now definitely for like Elfman to like basically turn into his like his soul more like fully his body take over like basically turning into that beast full beast form and basically undoing that and like turn back to, into like Elfman's human form like basically switching back and forth between that would be like as easy for like Elfman right now as like turning a switch on and off like Elfman right from this point on would be able to like turn into like full beast form at like and turn back into like his human form at any time at any moment he want. It's definitely like would be like the current situation for like Elfman is definitely mandatory.